GDP is not doing very well, right? The economy, it's not growing very well. Is there one company out there that could save us? Well, no, there isn't actually. But Apple could help us out a little bit. Surprisingly, Sudeep Reddy is down in Washington. He wrote a post for Real-Time Economics. All right, I don't know if I buy this one. I don't buy this one at all, Sudeep, I got to tell you. Apple is actually going to, just the iPhone alone, is going to visibly move the needle on GDP. Is that what you're telling me?
It's going to save the U.S. economy. Well, Paul, what's actually interesting here is that you have a measurable effect from a single product. And if you just go through the basic math, as we've done on Real-Time Economics, you can see that if you were to see the new iPhone meet some of the projections, or at least match some of the numbers from before in selling, say, 8 million units for this phone, you would actually see a measurable effect in the nation's gross domestic product. And JP Morgan, the economists JP Morgan have calculated this to be somewhere between 1/4 percentage point and 1/2 percentage point, which is sizable when you're dealing with an economy that's probably going to be growing in the fourth quarter at about 1.5% at a very disappointing rate. And so this is an interesting way to measure it. It may not end up being that high, but just to say one product could move us gives an interesting twist to the iPhone release.
Is this that unusual, Sudeep? I mean, could you do this same kind of study for a Ford Mustang or for a Boeing, for a Dreamliner? I mean, this can't be the only product in the world that you can actually measure its effect on GDP.
It's certainly not. There are plenty of products you could do this for. What's interesting about the iPhone is because there's so much buzz and hype around it, there are so many people who rush to buy it in a concentrated period of time that you see the sales at one period. With most cars, the waiting list can drag on for months or years, and you're not necessarily going to see it in a case like that. And with the iPhone, there's certainly a clear, measurable effect when everyone's rushing out to try to get it, and in a particular quarter. And as we'll see with this, it will probably be the biggest boost in a particular quarter in seeing that. And there are other things that could actually push us down to the point where nobody will be talking about this at the end of the year. We have the fiscal cliff, you have a drought, you have a lot of things that are probably going to knock a lot more than 1/2 percentage point off of GDP. But it's just interesting looking out that there are economists who are looking at this and holding their forecast just a little bit higher because they see something like this out on the horizon.
So you're saying that I think JP Morgan said they expected it to be about GDP about 1.5%. Is that after or before the iPhone effect?
JP Morgan has actually kept their fourth quarter forecast around 2% for the pace of growth, and they're saying that it gives them, it removes some of the downside risks of that forecast. So the chance they lowered the forecast might be a little bit less because of this iPhone effect. Other forecasters have already moved their expectations down to 1.5%. And you'll probably see even more go down given the hit from gas prices and the fiscal cliff and all the other things coming on the horizon. But this is just one interesting thing to see going into a forecast. And there are plenty of ways I'm sure people will try to poke holes in this. But when you go through the GDP math, it's interesting to see when you have a single product create this much of an effect.
All right, Sudeep Reddy in Washington, D.C., thank you very much.